sat across from Victoria and two board members in the cold conference room. My hands felt frozen against the wooden armrest. They accused me of breaching confidentiality. The words hit me like ice water. My stomach dropped as I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was planned. They wanted me gone. Security appeared at the door. Everyone in the office watched as I gathered my things. My team looked away, embarrassed for me. I felt my face burn with shame. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Victoria whisper to someone behind me. Her voice was quiet but clear. She knew too much. Those words made my blood run cold. What did I know? Then it clicked. The financial report. The forged signature. The missing money. I'd stumbled onto something big, and now they were burying me to hide it. Just 1 month earlier, everything was different. I was Emily Rhodes, Senior Project Manager at Ridge and Vale Creative in Seattle. I led our biggest campaign for a multi-million-dollar client. The work was hard, and I stayed late most nights. But I loved it. One evening, I was reviewing project budgets when something caught my eye. The numbers didn't match. A payment of $47,000 was listed twice under different invoice numbers. I thought it was a simple accounting error. I double-checked the spreadsheet. The money was going to the same vendor, but the dates were only 3 days apart. Why would we pay the same company twice in 1 week? My stomach felt uneasy. Something wasn't right here, but I didn't know how deep it went. The next morning, I brought the report to the finance department. Sarah, the accountant, barely looked at it. "I'll check it later," she said, turning back to her computer. Her tone was cold. That wasn't normal. I couldn't let it go. That night, I dug through old invoices in the shared drive. Then I found it, an internal invoice with my signature at the bottom. But I never signed it. Someone had forged my name. My hands started shaking. This wasn't just an error. Someone was moving money illegally, and they were using my identity to cover their tracks. I printed the document and hid it in my bag. I needed proof before I said anything. My heart pounded as I drove home that night. The next day, my friend Liam from accounting pulled me aside in the break room. He looked nervous, checking over his shoulder before speaking. "Emily, drop it. You're touching something dangerous." His voice was barely a whisper. I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head. "Trust me. Let it go." Then he walked away quickly. I'd never seen Liam scared before. That worried me more than anything. Over the next few days, senior management stopped smiling at me. Victoria walked past my desk without saying hello. The CFO cancelled our weekly check-in. I felt like a ghost in my own office. Then an email appeared in my inbox from an unknown sender. No subject line. Just 5 words: "Stop asking questions." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. Someone was watching me. 2 days later, Victoria called me into her office. She reassigned me to a smaller client. "Focus on your own work, Emily," she said with a fake smile. It felt like a warning. I tried to access my old project files that afternoon, but they were gone. Deleted from the shared drive. I checked my email archives, also gone. Someone with admin access had wiped everything connected to that budget report. My chest felt tight. They were erasing evidence and isolating me. I saved everything I had left onto a personal USB drive and took it home. The next morning, HR called me. "We need to speak with you about a serious matter," the woman said. When I arrived, 2 managers sat waiting. They told me I was under investigation for leaking client data. My mouth went dry. I'd never leaked anything. The HR hearing was a nightmare. They brought in my colleague Jenna to testify. Jenna was my closest friend at work. We had lunch together every week. I trusted her completely. But she sat across from me and said I'd been acting suspiciously. She claimed I was working odd hours and copying files. Every word felt like a knife. I tried to defend myself, but she wouldn't look at me. After the hearing, I stayed in the bathroom for 10 minutes, trying not to cry. When I finally came out, I saw Victoria in the hallway. She was thanking Jenna, squeezing her shoulder. "I appreciate your loyalty," Victoria said. I felt sick. Jenna had sold me out. They'd probably promised her my position or a raise. My trust was shattered. The stress crushed me over the next week. I barely slept. I couldn't eat. Every email from work made my hands shake. Then, on a Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed. Termination letter. Effective immediately. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried. 11 years of hard work, gone. My reputation destroyed. I had no idea how I'd pay rent next month. As I dried my eyes and started the engine, I glanced toward the building entrance. Victoria was there, shaking hands with a man in an expensive suit. I recognized him, Robert Chen, the vendor from those duplicate invoices. They were laughing together like old friends. My stomach turned. They were in this together. The weeks after my firing were brutal. I applied to 20 companies. None called back. I asked a recruiter friend what was happening. She hesitated, then admitted, "Someone's been spreading rumors about you. They're saying you're not trustworthy." Victoria was blacklisting me. She was making sure I couldn't work anywhere in Seattle. My savings drained fast. Bills piled up on my kitchen table. I felt defeated and powerless. Then one evening, someone knocked on my door. It was Liam. He looked terrified, constantly glancing behind him. "I can't stay long," he said, pushing a USB drive into my hand. "You need to see this. I'm sorry I didn't help you sooner." Before I could ask questions, he was gone. I locked the door and plugged in the drive. The USB drive contained hundreds of internal emails. I read through them with shaking hands. Victoria and the CFO, Martin Reeves, had been inflating invoices for 2 years. They created fake expenses and split the extra money through shell companies. The emails were cold and calculated. They discussed how much they could skim without triggering audits. One message made me freeze. "Emily's getting too close. We need to remove her before she figures it out." I'd been fired to protect their secret. All the accusations, the setup, Jenna's betrayal, it was all planned to silence me. Anger burned in my chest. At the bottom of the folder, I found incorporation documents. Victoria had registered a new company in the Cayman Islands just 3 months ago. They were still stealing. I thought about going to the media immediately. But something stopped me. If I exposed them now, they'd just hire expensive lawyers and bury the story. I needed a better plan. A smarter plan. I filed an anonymous complaint with the SEC, attaching every document from Liam's USB drive. I made sure my name wasn't anywhere on it. Let the government investigators do the heavy work. Meanwhile, I needed to survive. I started freelancing, taking small marketing projects from my old contacts. The work was basic, but it paid my rent. One client introduced me to Mark Donovan, CEO of a rival marketing firm called Apex Strategies. We met for coffee, and he was impressed by my ideas. "We could use someone like you," he said. Mark offered me a full-time position as marketing director at Apex. The pay was good, and the team seemed healthy. I accepted immediately. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful. Apex was everything Ridge and Vale wasn't. Mark listened to his employees. He valued experience and ethics. I threw myself into the work, building campaigns and training junior staff. One afternoon, Mark mentioned something interesting over lunch. "We're looking to acquire a competitor," he said casually. "There's a mid-sized firm in Seattle that's struggling. Ridge and Vale Creative. Ever heard of them?" My heart stopped. I kept my face neutral. "Yeah, I've heard of them." Mark nodded. "They're bleeding clients. Might be a good opportunity to expand." I smiled and changed the subject, but inside, my mind was racing. Over the next few weeks, I kept my connection to Ridge and Vale quiet. But I watched from a distance. Industry gossip said they were in trouble. 2 major clients had left, citing internal issues. My old co-workers started reaching out. They asked for advice, complained about the chaos. One message stood out. It was from Jenna. "You were right. Everything's falling apart." I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to ignore her forever. But another part was curious. What was happening inside those walls? A few days later, I texted back, "What do you mean?" Her reply came fast, "Victoria's panicking. Projects are failing. People are quitting. I made a mistake, Emily. I'm sorry." Too late for apologies, I thought. But her message confirmed what I suspected. Ridge and Vale was self-destructing. I wrestled with my conscience. Should I speed up their downfall or just let karma work? Part of me wanted revenge. But a bigger part wanted to do things right. I focused on my team at Apex instead. I mentored young marketers, taught them everything I knew. I made sure they felt valued and heard. It felt good to build something positive. Then I received an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "I know what Victoria did. Let's talk." I stared at the message for a long time before opening it. Inside was just a phone number. My hands trembled as I dialed. A man's voice answered. "Hello, Emily. My name is David Park. I used to be an accountant at Ridge and Vale." David and I met at a quiet diner across town. He was in his 50s, with tired eyes. "I resigned 6 months ago," he said. "I couldn't be part of it anymore." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements showing offshore transfers to Victoria's shell companies. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. The proof was undeniable. "Why are you giving this to me?" I asked. David looked down. "Because you tried to stop it. And they destroyed you for it. Someone needs to make this right." His voice cracked. I was too scared. "But you're braver than me." I took the folder and thanked him. Walking to my car, I felt the weight of what I held. I had enough evidence to bury Victoria and Martin. But I wasn't ready yet. Ridge and Vale's biggest client, Holloway Industries, terminated their contract in September. The news spread fast. Industry insiders whispered about trust issues and missed deadlines. Mark called me into his office. "Holloway's looking for a new agency," he said. "They want to meet with us next week. Can you lead the pitch?" I agreed immediately. This was my chance. I prepared a presentation showcasing Apex's values, transparency, accountability, and results. Everything Ridge and Vale had lost. The pitch went perfectly. Holloway's CEO smiled the whole time. "This is exactly what we need," he said. They signed with us 2 days later. Then Victoria did something desperate. She posted on LinkedIn, blaming former employees for sabotaging Ridge and Vale. She didn't name me, but everyone knew. My phone exploded with messages. Some supportive, some confused. I decided to face my past head-on. There was a marketing conference downtown where Ridge and Vale were sponsoring a panel. I registered and showed up in my best suit. Victoria was on stage when I walked in. She was mid-sentence when her eyes found me in the audience. Her face went pale. She stumbled over her next words, clearly rattled. After the panel, I approached her in the lobby. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Emily," she said, voice tight. I smiled calmly. "Long time no see, Victoria." She tried to walk away, but I could see her hands shaking. Industry people watched our interaction with interest. The power had shifted, and everyone could feel it. I walked away without another word, leaving her standing there. My appearance at the conference sent ripples through the industry. People started talking about how Apex was overtaking Ridge and Vale. Social media buzzed with comparisons. We were winning, and it showed. Victoria grew desperate. She ordered her team to investigate me, looking for anything to use against me. That's when she discovered the anonymous SEC report. I heard through contacts that she nearly had a breakdown in her office. She didn't know I'd filed it, but the timing made her suspicious. The investigation was moving forward, and federal auditors were already requesting documents. Victoria couldn't stop it. Meanwhile, Mark asked me to help evaluate potential acquisitions. "I trust your judgment," he said. I smiled. Everything was falling into place exactly as it should. Patience was paying off. Victoria's lawyers sent me a cease and desist letter, accusing me of defamation. I read it with Mark and our legal team. They laughed. "This is nothing," our lawyer said. "Pure intimidation with no legal standing." I ignored it completely. Victoria was grasping at straws, trying to scare me into silence. But I wasn't the frightened employee anymore. I had power now, and I knew how to use it. The SEC investigation intensified. I heard they'd subpoenaed 2 years of financial records. Victoria hired a crisis management firm, but it was too late. The truth was coming out whether she liked it or not. Liam texted me, "Federal agents showed up today. Everyone's freaking out." I felt a grim satisfaction. Justice was slow, but it was coming. In November, Martin Reeves resigned suddenly. The official statement said he was pursuing other opportunities, but everyone knew he was running. A week later, a business journalist published an article about financial irregularities at Ridge and Vale Creative. Victoria started firing people to cut costs and eliminate witnesses. Good employees fled. The company culture became toxic. Former co-workers told me it felt like a sinking ship. Then Liam called me, voice shaking. "Victoria's trying to sell the company. She wants out before the SEC finishes." I felt my pulse quicken. Who's buying? I don't know yet. But she's desperate. The price is dropping every week. I hung up and immediately called Mark. "Remember that acquisition we discussed?" I said. "Now's the time." Mark's team moved fast. They approached Ridge and Vale with an offer, 30% below market value. Victoria had no choice. Her company was collapsing, and buyers were rare. I watched the negotiations from a distance, careful not to show my hand. Mark asked me once, "You have history with them, don't you?" I just nodded. He didn't push for details. The deal moved forward. Victoria was selling everything: the client list, the office lease, the intellectual property, and the staff contracts. She'd walk away with some money, but her reputation would be destroyed. One evening, Mark called me into his office. He looked serious. "If we buy Ridge and Vale, I'll need someone strong to lead the transition. Someone who knows the company inside and out." He paused. "Would you be willing to be managing director?" I felt my breath catch. Yes. The acquisition closed in January. Mark called an all-staff meeting at Ridge and Vale's office. I stood beside him as he announced the news. Employees looked shocked and worried. Then Mark introduced me as the new managing director. The room went silent. People stared. Some faces showed relief. Others showed disbelief. Jenna's mouth literally fell open. I stood there calmly, meeting every eye in the room. After the meeting, Victoria stormed into my new office. Her face was red with anger. "You planned this," she shouted. "You orchestrated everything." I stayed seated, hands folded on the desk. "No, Victoria. You did this to yourself. I just made sure the truth came out." My voice was steady and cold. "You destroyed my life to hide your crimes. Now you're facing consequences." Victoria tried to argue, to threaten, to justify. But I'd prepared for this moment. I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. On the screen were the emails, the bank transfers, the forged invoices. Everything. "The SEC has all of this," I said quietly. "Your lawyers know it. There's no way out." Her face crumbled. For the first time, Victoria looked powerless. Security appeared at my door. I'd called them before she arrived. "Please escort Ms. Hale from the building," I said. She left the same way I once did, walking past silent co-workers toward the exit. But unlike my firing, this was justice. This was earned. I felt no joy, just a quiet sense of closure. It was finally over. 2 weeks later, the SEC officially charged Victoria Hale and Martin Reeves with fraud and embezzlement. The amounts totaled over $800,000. The news made regional headlines. Reporters called me for comments. "I'm focused on rebuilding Ridge and Vale's integrity," I told them. "The past is behind us." One journalist asked directly, "Did you plan this revenge?" I thought carefully before answering. "No. I planned to do the right thing. What happened to them was a consequence of their choices, not my revenge. The quote went viral. Industry leaders praised the changes at Ridge and Vale. Clients who'd left started returning. Our reputation slowly rebuilt on a foundation of transparency and honesty. It felt incredible to lead with values instead of fear. Over the next few months, I made major changes. I rehired employees who'd been unfairly fired. I introduced transparent budgeting and regular ethics training. I promoted based on merit, not politics. The company transformed. People smiled in the hallways again. Projects succeeded. Clients trusted us. Ridge and Vale became a place where people wanted to work. One afternoon, an email appeared in my inbox. It was from Jenna. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she wrote. "But I'm sorry. I was scared and weak. If there's any chance you'd let me prove myself again, I'd be grateful." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it. But I remembered what it felt like to need a second chance. I replied, "Let's talk." 6 months after taking over, I signed the papers that made me CEO of Ridge and Vale Creative. Mark had promoted me, trusting me completely with the company's future. I sat in my office, Victoria's old office, and looked out at the Seattle skyline. The city looked different now. Brighter somehow. I'd been fired in this building, escorted out in shame, told I knew too much. They tried to bury me to protect their secret. But all they really did was give me time to become stronger. My phone buzzed. It was Liam. "Congratulations, boss. You earned this." I smiled. Yes, I had. Not through revenge or cruelty, but through patience, ethics, and refusing to give up. Victoria and Martin were facing trial. I was leading a thriving company. The contrast was stark. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply becoming the person they tried to destroy, and succeeding anyway.